Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're going deep, deep into Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Ooh, good one. I think this one might be my favorite Cap movie.
It's got action, it's got intrigue, but we're going beyond the shield slinging. We're talking about the really big questions the film throws at us, like how much security is too much?
Right. That's what makes it more than just a superhero flick. It's asking us to think about that balance between safety and freedom. Something that feels very relevant, even more so today, I think.
It's like the film is holding up a mirror to our own world, and that's where we're going to do our digging, using the Wikipedia article as our guide to see how Captain America, the Winter Soldier, tackles these themes.
Sounds fascinating. Where do we even begin with a movie this layered?
Well, it picks up after the events of the Avengers. Remember that insane battle in New York?
How could we forget? It was like the whole city was a war zone.
Exactly. And the film doesn't shy away from how that kind of event, that scale of destruction, it's going to leave a mark on the world, on the people in it.
Yeah. It makes you think about what we'd be willing to sacrifice to prevent that kind of chaos. Some of those big, scary questions about surveillance and security, they hit differently after you've seen that level of destruction.
Exactly. And that's the world the Winter Soldier drops us into, one where those lines between right and wrong, between security and freedom, they're blurred.
And nobody embodies that struggle better than our hero himself.
Yeah.
Captain America.
Right. The guy's a walking, talking symbol of freedom, and he's thrown into this world of espionage where the lines are hazy at best. Like the film opens with Cap on this mission, hostages, pirates. Seems pretty standard. Yeah.
Standard superhero stuff, right?
Right. But then we see Black Widow's got her own objective, data retrieval. And Nick Fury, the guy running the show, he's not exactly Mr. By the Book.
Ooh, now it's getting good. That's where things get really interesting. You've got Captain America, this guy who believes in truth and justice, suddenly caught in the middle of, well, something a lot more complicated.
It's the perfect setup. You can already feel that tension building. Captain America holding on to his ideals while the world around him is telling him to compromise. And that's just the first act.
This is why I love this film. It's that push and pull. How far are we willing to go in the name of safety? What are we willing to give up? And who gets to decide? And things get even more, well, intense, shall we say, when Project Insight comes into play.
Oh yeah, Project Insight Fury's big idea for keeping the world safe. 3 helicarriers linked to a network of satellites covering the whole globe.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie, isn't it? Except this time, it's not aliens or robots we're worried about.
It's us.
Exactly, us humans, with all our flaws and messy history. The whole idea is to stop threats before they even happen.
Which sounds great in theory, right? Who wouldn't want to prevent tragedies before they occur? But then the film throws us a curveball, doesn't it?
A big one. Because the film asks, are we really stopping threats, or are we just eliminating anyone who doesn't fit some kind of algorithm's idea of safe?
And who gets to decide what safe even means?
Exactly. And that's where the Winter Soldier really gets under your skin. It makes you question the whole idea of preemptive action. And whether we're willing to sacrifice individual freedom in the name of some abstract notion of security.
And the film doesn't shy away from showing us just how easily that kind of power can be abused. Remember that chilling quote from Fury in the Wikipedia article when he's describing Project Insight? He says, these new long-range precision guns can eliminate 1,000 hostiles a minute. The satellites can read a terrorist's DNA before he steps outside his spider hole. We're going to neutralize a lot of threats before they even happen.
It sends chills down your spine, doesn't it? The way he talks about hostiles and terrorists. It's all so clinical, so calculated.
And it reveals how easily language can be used to justify almost anything in the name of security.
Right. It's like once you start labeling people as threats, it's a slippery slope. And the Winter Soldier isn't afraid to show us just how slippery that slope can be.
Especially when you realize that Hydra, the bad guys, have infiltrated SHIELD and are using Project Insight for their own nefarious purposes.
Which adds a whole other layer of complexity, right? Because now it's not just about the ethics of surveillance and preemptive action. It's about the potential for those systems to be corrupted from within.
To be used against the very people they're supposed to protect.
Exactly. And that's where things get really scary, because it makes you wonder about the systems we have in place in the real world. The algorithms we rely on to make decisions about everything from loan applications to criminal justice. Are we really in control of these technologies? Or are they controlling us?
It's a question that's becoming more and more urgent, don't you think? Especially as artificial intelligence and machine learning become more sophisticated. And the Winter Soldier doesn't give us easy answers, but it forces us to confront those uncomfortable questions head on.
And that's what makes it such a powerful film. It's not just entertainment, it's a warning, a reminder that we need to be vigilant, to question authority, and to fight for our freedoms, even when it's uncomfortable.
Because in the end, what are we without our freedom?
Right. What's the point of security if it comes at the cost of everything that makes life worth living?
And the Winter Soldier really drives that point home with the targets Hydra chooses for Project Insight.
Wait, are we about to talk about Zola's algorithm? Because that's where things get really interesting.
You know it, Zola's algorithm. It analyzes your past to predict your future. That's scary stuff.
It's chilling. Imagine being judged not on what you've done, but on what some computer program thinks you might do.
Like the film flags Steve Rogers as a threat. We're talking Captain America here. And Bruce Banner, the Hulk.
Of course, they're threats to Hydra's plan. Makes sense in the Soames world. But what about the real world? Are we heading towards a future where algorithms decide our fate, based on data that may or may not be accurate or complete?
And what's even more unsettling is that the algorithm also flags someone who hasn't even become a superhero yet, Doctor Strange. He's just a surgeon at this point in the MCU timeline.
Whoa, that's a really interesting point. They're essentially saying that anyone, even someone with the potential to be a threat, is fair game. Where do you even draw the line?
Exactly. It throws the whole concept of due process out the window, and it makes you think if they can do that to Captain America, they can do it to anyone. So Hydra is ready to launch Project Insight. They think they've won, but our heroes, they've got other plans.
Yeah, this is where the Winter Soldier really kicks into high gear. It's a race against time to expose Hydra and stop Project Insight before it's too late.
And the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about the potential for global surveillance and the loss of freedom on a massive scale.
It's a battle for the very soul of SHIELD and maybe even the world. And what's really interesting is that the film doesn't offer any easy answers.
Right. It's not like Hydra is completely wrong about the dangers facing the world.
Exactly. They just have a really messed up way of dealing with them. And the heroes, they have to make some tough choices too. Like Black Widow releasing all of SHIELD secrets to the public. Talk about a game changer.
It's a huge risk, but one they ultimately decide is necessary to stop Hydra.
And it raises some really important questions about transparency and accountability, even when it comes to organizations like SHIELD that are supposed to be working for the greater good.
Absolutely. The film really drives home the point that even with the best of intentions, secrecy can be a dangerous thing. And it reminds me of that list of films featuring surveillance that's mentioned in the Wikipedia article. It's amazing how many movies and TV shows grapple with this idea of being watched, of our privacy being eroded.
It's a primal fear, isn't it? The idea of someone looking over our shoulder, monitoring our every move. It's both fascinating and terrifying. And it makes you wonder, are we already living in a surveillance state? Or is that something we're headed towards?
It's a question worth considering, especially in today's world where technology is advancing at such a rapid pace.
Right. I mean, think about it. Facial recognition software, data mining, online tracking, it's all around us. And while these technologies can be used for good, they can also be used to control and manipulate.
Which is exactly what Hydra tries to do in The Winter Soldier. They exploit our fear of the unknown, our desire for security, to advance their own agenda.
Which is a cautionary tale for all of us, don't you think? To be aware of how our own biases and fears can be exploited, and to be critical thinkers, to question the information we're being fed.
Absolutely. The Winter Soldier is a reminder that the fight for freedom is never truly over. It's an ongoing battle that requires us to be vigilant, to speak truth to power, and to never take our freedoms for granted.
Well said. And it's a battle that's not just fought on the big screen, but in our everyday lives. Every time we choose privacy over convenience, every time we speak out against injustice, every time we refuse to be silenced, we're fighting for a better world.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into Captain America, the Winter Soldier. We've only scratched the surface here, so we encourage you to check out the Wikipedia article, explore those other films on the surveillance list, and keep those thought-provoking conversations going.
Because the more we talk about these issues, the more aware we become. And the better equipped we are to face the challenges of the future.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.